let's talk about the Raiders. It's 3-5, so it's not like desperate, like 1-7, right?
Yeah, but I heard what you said about Devontae.
Right.
I agree with you.
You know what I mean? And so you got a player who's incredibly special in Devontae Adams, who clearly is not happy. The team apparently had that open air meeting with everybody, and that didn't work. And the fan base is pissed off. I mean, this photograph from Monday Night Football in Detroit, somebody wearing Raiders gear holding up a sign says, "Just fire Josh," with the Raiders logo there. What do you think Mark Davis is thinking right now?
Well, let's start with Josh. Let's start with Devontae.
Sure.
Do you remember how Stephon Diggs got traded?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you remember how that happened though? Like, he tweeted something that morning,
right? And
Brandon Beane was like, "Oh, like maybe I should make a phone call here."
Mm-hmm.
And like 10 hours later, he was traded. So, I know the Raiders' stance has been they're not moving him. No way, no how, we're not doing it. But if you're Buffalo or you're Kansas City or you're, I don't know, name a team.
Well, I gave my top 5 teams that should trade for him. Number 1 was Baltimore.
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville could do it too. I don't know. I like their receivers. I don't know if they.
I like their receivers too, but the idea of like, hey, we got a quarterback on a rookie contract and we're 6-2. Let's go for it. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
And now we're rolling Devontae Adams out there with Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk, and let's go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Saints. Get him back with his college buddy. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah. So the reason I bring up the Diggs thing is because, like, a lot of times teams don't have intentions to trade someone, and something like this happens, and then all of a sudden the calls start coming in. And so I think that's at least something worth considering here. Again, the Raiders' intention has been to, like, we're not doing it, but maybe somebody can blow them away today, the same way someone could blow like Denver away on Patrick Surtain. I think that I think the Raiders people have been pretty open about this. There was I'd say a miscalculation on where the roster was coming out of 2021. And, Josh and Dave Ziegler, showed it with their actions and trading for Devontae when they did and making the move for Chandler Jones. Those are like moves that like scream we're close. And I think over the course of last year, they found out they weren't that close. And so now it sort of feels like they're tangled between, all right, we need to build for the future, but we've got a lot of players in the roster, not just Devontae, but Max Crosby and Colton Miller and Josh Jacobs. We've got all these players in the roster that are part of this core of what could be a really good team right now. And I think they're trying to figure out how to untangle that now. And I think Mark Davis went so deep in, and I've spent time in that building over the last couple of years, went so deep in on Josh McDaniels' way of doing things, right? Like, and that building is like, it is Josh McDaniels' program, and the people from top to bottom are Josh's people.
Right.
And so if you're pulling the plug on that, you're talking about a full organizational reset. So I don't think he wants to pull the plug on it right now. However, they have had meetings post game over the last few weeks, the same way he'd have his meetings with Gruden. And, I don't think Mark is real happy about where things are right now. And so, Josh has learned a lot, from his time in Denver and then his second stint in New England. And, I think it's on him now to make sure that there's a long-term vision here. Because you saw what I did last night. Like, Jimmy didn't look good at all. Like Jimmy looks hurt, to be honest with you. It doesn't look right. And, missing those deep balls to Devontae, it's egregious, and the defense is playing better, but it's not enough. Offensive line looks messy, and so, certainly I think, Mark Davis, I don't think he's afraid to put pressure on his people. We saw that with Gruden. We saw that, with guys there previous, guys like Jack Del Rio. And, I do think that there's pressure on Josh to at least set out a long-term vision for where he's taking this thing post 2023.
Well, their next game's home against the Giants. That won't be seen by much of the country, but the next game against the Jets on a Sunday night will. And that's where
no standalone games, Rich.
That is,
yeah,
no doubt. No doubt. Like, that's next. And then they're at Miami versus Kansas City before a bye, which could be bye-bye if they don't sweep New York. So they also don't seem to have the ability to sweep too much right now.
Right.
That's the issue.
I mean, there's no, like, after the way they played last night, like, are you willing to call any game a layup? You can't.
No.
Right?
No.
You can't.
No. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.